I think this will be the third electrical video for the garage. So I passed the final inspection for the garage, and I need to do some electrical, which is in video 1 and 2 to get through that inspection. But now that that inspection is done, I'm coming up to the point where I really want to put some cabinets, actually build some cabinets, which there'll be some videos on later on. But this video is going to be primarily about installing the remaining electrical. Floodlights on the outside, a couple more plug-ins. I'm going to run a couple other lines down here for 2 more lights, which add an extension to a 220 plug-in that I have wired up for the welding. So quite a bit of electrical still to do. So let's get started. Can't have the radio on, not for YouTube at least. Any of you guys that make YouTube videos know why that is. So this line I'm running right now is for the floodlights. This is going to go over here to the switch. Just pushing it through a bunch of these holes that I already drilled, and it will come out and run. Ooh, that's quite a bit extra. Don't need that much. And that's plenty. So I'm gonna staple there, and staple here, and it'll stick out of the box. There'll be a double gang box right here. So I ended up deciding to put the box for the outside right about here on the wall, which will be just below this window on the outside. So there'll be a double gang box that this wire will supply. And this will tap in from this box here, which is actually gonna get moved down to the same height as the ones on the back wall. So we're gonna move that stuff around. While I was thinking about all that, I decided that I was going to put the light switch for my workbench in the back over here. I think that that's the best way to do it. I consider putting a double switch in where I'd have a switch here and a switch over there. But I don't want to go through the extra hassle. Important things to consider when installing any sort of electrical box from the inside to the outside or from the outside to the inside. So this wire is going to penetrate this box, but this box is going to be mounted from the outside. You don't want your faceplate of your plug-in to end up on the overlap of your siding. I'll take you out there and I'll show you what that means in a second. You want it in the middle so that it's nice and flush and that it's nice and watertight, you don't have any problems. So what I'm going to do is roughly figure out the right place to do that and drill a single hole with the 3/8 bit that I happen to have through my siding into this area. See, I'm really glad I came and checked because see how big that is? It actually needs to be right about there so that it will operate properly. You know, had I put a flat trim piece right here like I was going to and I forgot to do, this wouldn't be an issue. I'm considering putting a trim piece in. Yeah, I don't want to do that. Too much hassle. I would normally use an angle grinder to cut siding, obviously, but this is one cut and it does work pretty well, so. I was hoping it was just going to snap right out of there. But, of course, I'm not going to get that lucky. I'm going to have to go get a chisel and a hammer. Look like a beaver knot on that thing. Well, it turns out that because of the overlap on the siding, 2 pieces of siding and a piece of plywood, and these cool little tabs don't quite engage. So,
Looks like I gotta use a standard box, which is a real pain in the butt. That means I gotta go put blocking in the wall. Whew. All sorts of fun stuff I didn't want to have to do. You know, I'm gonna not bore you guys with all that. I'm gonna go get it all done. I'm gonna go put the blocking in the wall, get the box installed. I'll even push a couple of wires into it, and I'll bring you back and show you what all that looks like. This is some pretty basic stuff. I mean, blocking is just supports for the edge of the box. So, if you got any questions, go ahead and ask me down below. And that is the outside electrical box. So you can see it as a metal box. It'll be grounded, GFCI, all that good crap. Pain in the butt, but I got it in. It's there. So we'll wire that baby up in a little bit. I like these little guys. They come in a little package, I think of 25 or 50 or something like that. It's a little grounding screw for, comes in super handy for doing metal boxes. It's just time saver right here, so. Snap plates are a little flimsier than I would like them to be, but I suppose they work. Surprised my dog's not going bananas chasing that squirrel right now. I am getting ready to install a couple different things that I had forgotten about, unfortunately. And I also, as you can see, I have these couple of boxes, these electrical boxes. These four going across that way will be for some lights that I will have underneath of my upper set of cabinets. The upper set of cabinets should come down to just above this plug-in. The lights should hang from the cabinet, so you kind of should conceal this a little bit. These four plug-ins will work off of a switch, which is over by the door when you come into the garage. So I'm getting ready to start running all that wire. So in order to make this work, I have to run another wire from this box out the top, down, and back to the panels. Because this wire here actually goes all the way to the light switch. And I'm going to use the line and the load, or the positive and the negative, or the neutral and the supply, however you want to look at that, both as positives. This is going to be an extension of what would be the black wire in the other wire. That will make the light switch work. Well, over here I'm at various stages of wiring these plugs. Stripping the insulation on that one. Let's see, what am I doing? I'm getting the grounds and the wires ready for the plug to be installed in the next one. And the far one looks like I'm getting ready to finally put the plug in place. So we'll see how all that works out. These will be the plug-ins for the lights off the bottom of my workbench. Eventually, they're getting installed now because I don't want to have the conduits or anything running on the outside of the wall. Well, that about wraps it up. These guys will finish up what they're doing, and we'll be all done. is the hole for the wire to come through for my floodlight, which will mount right here.
This is the double gang box for 2 light switches. Lights above my workbench eventually, and floodlights. Lights above my workbench. That was weird. I just turned that switch on to turn the lights on the outside of the garage on, and it sparked inside of there. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. The lights are not on outside, obviously. And since that used to work, those are not the wires. The wires come... I haven't touched any of that stuff today. Nothing having to do with that have I touched. That's really, really weird. I'm gonna go see if the breaker tripped. I'll bring you guys over there with me. What do you think? The breaker is tripped. Breaker is off right now. I wasn't ready to pull that box apart. I mean, I'm going to pull that box apart because I have to wire in different types of switches, but I wasn't there yet. Appears that I am there though. So the breaker that feeds that is now turned off. Well, crap. I did not want to have to pull that box apart tonight, but it looks like I'm going to. Well, I'm going to go ahead and open that up and see what the heck's going on inside of there, I guess. I'm not expecting to see that tonight. It's a bummer. So it looks like, yes, exactly what I thought. On the side of this switch, let me turn this light back on. This is dead, by the way. You see that little black mark right there? That black mark, that screw is hot, right, when the power's turned on. Back inside here on this ground wire, right up there, you see that black mark? Well, that ground wire was around the side, of the box, pushed up against here. So when I pushed it hard, which is what I did, it got it close enough, it wiggled the box enough to make that ground wire contact that hot screw, which then tripped the breaker. So it's an easy fix. Push the ground out of the way and put it back together. So I will get this thing fixed back up and put back together again. So what I am working on is what will be the plug-in for my heater. There will be a heater mounted in this corner, and it takes 220. So we're installing the 220 box right now. This is 8-gauge wire, runs from my panel up to here. We're going to install this box. This box is specifically designed for range wire, right? So there it is. So that is a 220 plug-in from here over the wall and down to my electrical panel, and that will support power to the heater eventually when it's hanging here in the corner. I plan on buying my heater off of Amazon, but the heater won't get installed until after I get the rest of the electrical, the little bit of concrete I have to do, the plumbing, the sheetrock and the insulation and the painting all done, which is going to be a little while. But I wanted to make sure all the wiring and the boxes were in place before I put sheetrock and insulation and everything in the wall, because having to retrofit this would be a real pain in the butt. So that's the plug-in for the heater. Okay, I am done with the electrical in the garage. So this will be the end of, would be the third video for the electrical for my garage. I will go, I'll grab the camera here and I'll walk around and show you what I added and wrap this one up. So I changed this switch out, and this is a switch for using my smartphone. It's from LiftMaster, the same people that provided my garage door openers. Those two switches control the floodlights and then the lights on the front of the garage, so I can control those lights from my phone, so that if I'm in the house, which is down there, I'm able to turn on and off the floodlights or the lights on the front of the garage at night. The first two switches, which were here originally, control the lights in the ceiling. The third gray switch, this one over here, controls the plugins, the 4 plugins. So that one, that one, that one, and that one. Now I put those there to plug lights in like those. So those were lights that I had temporarily installed in the garage to get through my inspection, but I saved them because they're not very cheap. They're $55 a piece. And eventually those 4 lights will get mounted underneath the cabinets that'll go along this back wall and get plugged into those plugins, and they will work off of this light switch. So right now, all that does is turn on and off those plugins. Eventually it'll turn on and off the lights. This is a 20 amp plug-in for what eventually, when I build my cabinets, there will be a 6-gallon hot water tank sitting on the inside of the cabinets right there. And that will plug in that 6-gallon hot water tank. That plug-in runs over to this plug-in, which is a 20 amp GFCI plug-in. Eventually, this water tank and the plumbing for the said water tank will be inside of a enclosed area that is insulated, and there will be a small heater in here that plugs into that plug-in to keep this piping from freezing in the wintertime. I don't want to heat my whole garage when I only really need to heat this piping to keep it from freezing. So that's on a separate breaker to control the hot water tank and the heater. And that is a 220 volt plug-in, and that will be for the heater in the corner of my garage once it is sheetrocked. So I added this plug into the outside of the garage. That is actually a lid and it flips open, and I can now have water rated, tamper resistant, GFCI protected 20 amp plugins on the outside of the garage. That's a mouthful. And I also got done just now, the last thing I had to do was wire in this plug-in. And, well, you can barely see it, but right there is another plug-in. My camera won't focus on it, but it's there. So those 2 plugins eventually will be used for retractable reels that will be mounted on the ceilings, so I don't have to drag extension cords all over my garage. So it's a huge amount of wiring and a lot of plugins and a lot of extra stuff for a detached garage. It's just stuff that I felt I wanted to have the option to use in case I do install some of this stuff, which I plan on doing now that I have all the wiring here, because it wasn't cheap to install all this wiring. The floodlights weren't 100% necessary, but I have a wife and she likes having light and when it's dark outside. I mean, it gets dark at 5 o'clock these days. So I ended up with these lights that are behind me here on the outside. Oh, my head is right in the way, that light. And there's 3 across the front. They work pretty well. There's 100 amp LED, 100 watt LED light bulbs in those. And in that one over there. She asked me to install a floodlight, which you can see there. So this floodlight here, right there, shines light down my driveway. And I didn't need that light, obviously, for the garage, but it was conveniently located to where I didn't have to put a light out here on a tree somewhere. So that light kind of helps cast light in front of the garage, but not really. It's more for putting light down the driveway, so my wife's happier about things. Did install 2 250 watt lights on the back well, they point opposite directions right above my head right there in the corner. So that lights up the back of the garage, which is where I'm at now. Eventually this will probably have some kind of cover back here, and I'll park my tractor back here. And then the floodlight that I really wanted is this 500 water, which is up in the peak. And that casts light in the area where I might end up doing something at nighttime out here in this big open area. So that light up there, right there. So that might end up coming in handy if I end up doing work out in this area here. It's kind of an open area. Eventually we'll have it, some kind of pavers put in here and get this dirt and grass and everything taken care of. So that is the electrical. It's a really long electrical explanation. So my electrical for my garage is finally done. It's kind of a big milestone for me, getting all this electrical done. I've been working on it for quite a while, and it's a lot of planning ahead for things I don't have yet, like the sink, right? The hot water tank for the sink. The heater in the corner, don't have any of that stuff yet, but got to plan ahead, got to think about how you're going to do that stuff. So you're not running wires on your sheetrock or having to run them outside the garage. This is easier to think ahead and install this stuff now. Also trying to stay with code, put the GFCI protection stuff in, making sure everything's grounded properly. 20 amp plugins where you need them, 15 amps in other places. I don't have very many 15 amps in this garage, though. I think the garage door openers are 15 amps, but that's it. Thinking ahead about how you're going to turn on and off the lights. Today's technology with smartphones and the wireless switches are pretty awesome. I'd never used those before. I installed these. I'm very happy with how they work off my smartphone. Both my garage doors and those two switches all work off my smartphone. So I can open and close the garage doors if I forget, or if I'm laying in bed. No, I forgot to close that garage door. I can just do it from my phone. Same thing with the lights. Pretty convenient. So I think that will wrap up this video. If you have any questions, comments, by all means, post some comments down below. I like reading that stuff. You guys leave them on there for me. If you wondered why I did something specifically that I didn't explain very well, or maybe you thought I should have done something differently that I didn't do, by all means, leave me a comment and let me know. I'm always open for constructive criticism. I may be doing something a little differently. But that wraps it up. So make sure you like and subscribe. It always helps. And I appreciate you watching. Thank you.